So I believe without a doubt, without fail, that we were all placed here to achieve something that is great, something that is unique, something that no one else could do but us. And in that regards, we are very special, and therefore we have a very specific assignment to us. And if I could give this video a title, I'll probably call it The Gate That Hinders Great. And here are 3 major reasons why I believe most of us self-sabotage ourselves from being great. Number 1, I believe it's procrastination. Or sometimes for some other people it might be laziness, or sometimes it might be one or the other, or sometimes it's a mixture of both. The reality is I believe that every person, even when as we were kids, we always had this inbuilt vision or this inbuilt capacity to see great things in our lives and to want great things for our lives. It's only as we begin to get older, sometimes the dynamics begin to change when we begin to face quote-unquote reality. And in most times, we already have a snapshot or a picture or a blueprint that we see in our heads. And sometimes because of where we are at, and what we see in the future, it begins to feel very daunting and tedious in our minds that we begin to procrastinate, or we begin to not act upon the steps that will take us towards that great outcome. Have a very clear end goal. When you have an idea of what the end result is and what the end picture is, and let's call those your long-term goals, you want your midterm goals and you want your short-term goals in terms of daily tasks, etc., that when you accomplish your daily tasks, it fulfills the midterm goals. And then when you fulfill the midterm goals, it's supposed to be accomplishing your long-term goals. So it's not supposed to be something that is disconnected from each other, but it's supposed to be the simple steps, the everyday steps that are taking you towards your end goal. It reminds me of when you're building a building or a structure. Even though the blueprint is set, you now have to go back and you have to do the work. You have to lay brick by brick, but it takes work. So even though you have a snapshot of the end result, you still have to put in that work. But what is important is that every block that is laid, even though it seems very distant from the outcome, every block that is laid is actually completing the big picture. And that's how our life is supposed to be. That the big picture that we have, every single task that we do on a daily basis is supposed to be a building block that works towards that end goal. So number 1, laziness and procrastination is one of the biggest things, but get excited even if it means laying 1 block a day. And as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day, but it was built one day. So in other words, it wasn't built in a day, but one day it was completed. After the work was being done, a day will come when you would lay the final block, and then you could look back and say, it's done. And that is going to happen in our lives as well. Number 2, I believe, is fear. Now, we only and oftentimes associate fear on a negative side of things in terms of the fear of failure, but I also believe that fear, for some people, is actually the fear of what if I win, and what that is going to look like. I want to start with the fear of failure, because for most people, I think that we tell ourselves that maybe we aren't the one, or maybe we aren't capable, or we look at our financial status in terms of where we are, or we look at our current situation in terms of maybe our health, or what is happening in our family, or the community that we are raised in, or whatever it is have you. And we look at that and we almost disqualify ourselves most times than not. And I believe that even more importantly than just disqualifying ourselves because of the external factors, I think the biggest injustice we do to ourselves is we self-sabotage internally, because there's absolutely no external environment that it outpowers and it outnumbers the environment of our heart, the environment of our mind, and how we perceive and how we pursue things. So there's nothing around us that could really hinder us as much as the enemy that is within us. And that's why sometimes they say, the enemy is most times the enemy. I don't see the money in my bank making this a reality. And we use fear, and now fear acts as a stumbling block. But I believe that every hurdle in our lives is meant so that we were meant to strengthen our muscles so we could jump over it, not stop at it. And so that's why I believe with fear, we have to now counteract the fear of failure with replacing those thoughts with I will, and I can, and I am that person, and make it a declaration, even if you have to say it on a daily basis. I am that person who will accomplish. I am that person. And then the fear of winning is that, I think this one is a bit more scary, especially probably in my mind, is that I believe that there are a lot of people, they have what it takes and they are ready to put in the work to do what it takes to become successful. But what is scary is that if I become a success, what happens then? Would I be able to maintain it? Would I be able to manage it well? Would pride step in the way? Would I have to step on others? What if I climb all the way up to the mountaintop and I do something and I mess up? And we've seen in society over and over where people who have done the greatest of things, they would have accomplished so much, they would have done so much by way of impacting communities and countries and the world and the globe, and then they mess up one time at the top, and then it almost happens where the world is ready to disqualify them. No matter how much they have done before, this one act, they are ready to hold them accountable and bring their character under disrepute. And for some people, the fear of messing up at the mountaintop is scarier than even getting started with failure in mind. So all these are real challenges and hurdles. And I believe that there are several things that is happening here. Number one, I believe that we as a population and as the public, we need to be a lot more forgiving and a lot more graceful to people who would have done, especially people who are leaving a good legacy and a good message and leaving good value in people and changing people's lives to the better, changing people's minds, changing people's perspectives. I believe that when these people sometimes they get to a certain place, that we have to be more forgiving as a public to allow people at times to make mistakes, because you, at some point in time, you're going to be great, you're going to do great things, and you will want that very same forgiveness. You will want that very same pardon, because every human has the ability, and every human only has the ability to mess up at some point in time. And that is us without exemption. And if we cast the judgment on persons, then we are saying to ourselves that when that time comes, we are okay with being judged and we are okay with being put down. And if that is not a reality that you want, don't do it for others. Now, I do believe that there's also a correctional process and a correctional type of approach, but I don't believe we have the ability, and we should take it upon ourselves to excommunicate anybody from having impact in people's lives after that point, especially after a place of redemption and stuff like that. Number three, I believe this is very, very relevant for most people as well, and it's patience. It's in a world that is very convenient oriented in terms of everything happens very quickly. You snap a picture and you want it instantly developed, or you go through a drive-through. Everything is so quick that we believe that our success also relies on this type of a quick growth and this quick development, and I believe that is very harmful more times than not, because everything that lives, that grows and breeds needs to go through a due diligence of process and progress to get to a more advanced state. For instance, when we started walking, we didn't start it by running. Sometimes we just had to figure out what is a leg, what is the right leg from a left leg, which one goes before the others. We stumble because sometimes the muscle was not great enough to facilitate. If we had to try and shortcut the process of walking to running, something is going to be unnatural about that growth. So maybe the muscles won't develop the way it's supposed to, or you're not going to develop the learning curve, the things that you would have learned in that process to get to other things and learning other things in life. So sometimes we shortchange ourselves because we want to see the success that we see in our friends, or the success that we see in social media, and the success that we see all around us embodied in this, this fast Western world culture. And we apply that to our lives, and we believe that if we don't bear fruit right here and right now, that I'm going to seemingly insignificant in terms of my peers and how social pressures that come with that. When we are not patient, we rob ourselves from the ability to stop, to slow down, and have a deep conversation with our Creator and our Maker to say, what is my plan? What is my purpose? And sometimes, even if we get to that point, we are not patient enough to wait as long as it takes to get an answer to move with and to run with. Even when we do get the idea, or when we do get the answer, we get the snapshot of what it is we were meant to do, is that we get that snapshot and we believe that it needs to happen right now. And so too in our lives, that we should not be too anxious to get force ripe in terms of when we see that big picture, we want to accomplish it now. We want to take shortcuts, and we want to step on people, and we want to do things that are unethical to achieve those things. You are going to ruin your life in terms of your character is going to come under disrepute. And as one person once said, you don't ever want to climb to a place where your character cannot sustain you. And character is also a developmental process. So while while we are learning how to lay down each step one by one to get from point A to point B, we are learning, we are growing in perspectives, we are growing in life's experiences, we are growing in communication, we are growing in connection with people and how we process and how we make sense of life, because we are becoming students. And that process of learning is exactly what it takes to get us to the end result. But if we shortchange and if we shortcut to those things that are going to make up the very nature and the very character to take us and develop us and strengthen us to that end result, we are actually setting ourselves up for a success that we cannot sustain. And that, my friend, is just as detrimental as not even starting at times. So I just want to leave that short, simple thought with us today. We are all capable and we are all going to achieve great things. However, do not allow laziness or procrastination to hinder us. Number two, do not allow fear, in terms of the fear of that I can't, or the fear of success, to hinder us. And thirdly, let's be patient. Let's be patient enough to ask questions to the Creator, to wait. Let's be patient with ourselves. Let's be patient with others. And with these three things, I almost guarantee that it's going to make our life in terms of becoming great so much easier and so much more well worth it at the end. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am hoping to do more videos like this. I'm not going to give like a schedule, but I would definitely like to do more videos like this. And if you like this content, and if you have other things that may be hindering you from becoming great, leave that in the comment section. It might be able to encourage someone. It might even encourage me, and I'm here for it. So thank you so much again. See you in the next video.